Hey nerds, we are talking about Star Trek Picard episode 304, No Win Scenario. We are going to review it and then get into a spoiler breakdown of the episode starting now. Welcome to Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
David.
And I'm
so
Kendra.
this episode is written by Terry Matalas and Sean Treader, and it is directed by Jonathan Frakes, who also directed the episode last week. The spoiler-free logline is, with time running out, Picard, Riker, and the crew must confront the sins of their past and heal fresh wounds while the Titan, dead in the water, drifts helplessly towards certain destruction within a mysterious space anomaly. So, David, what did you think of this episode?
I think, first of all the episodes getting better and better in this season. So I really like this one a lot. Unlike last week's episode, it was a full-on battle. This one is more like in-depth within it, but I like it has more dialogue in it. You get to learn more about the characters, which I appreciate because I don't want to feel like these characters just paste it on and then there's no backstory. So I really like this one.
Contra, what do you think?
Yeah, it was really thrilling. I think it drew out, we left off last week not knowing, or at least knowing that they seemingly were done, right? No power, no control, or we're getting out of the anomaly. And I think this episode just really allowed you to sit with that. Like, what do people do when they think this is the end, right? And have the conversation that they always wanted to have or couldn't have before. So I agree with David. You really got to learn more about the characters and their relationships. And I think see some unexpected partnerships in this episode to find a resolution to this problem. And like, minor spoiler, but we finally deal with the biological anomaly that everybody seemed to be glossing over in the previous episodes. But yeah, it was really exciting. And I think, yeah, just another really well-written episode.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I watch these episodes a lot for notes. And so, like, I gotta say, when I first watched this, I didn't like this episode, especially coming from the high of the last episode. The last episode had the dialogue between Beverly and Picard, like some of the best dialogue written in Trek that I've seen, best conversation. And I think the problem with this episode for me, even after watching it 4 or 5 times, is the Riker stuff in this episode. And it's funny because Jonathan Frakes directs this episode just like he directed the last episode. So I don't know if it's issue with the writing in this episode or issue with his directing, but he directed other people last week, so I don't know if it's issues with directing, maybe he's not directing himself well enough. I didn't feel the scenes with him as much as they expect you to feel them, and it frames the entire episode. His scenes are sort of at the beginning and the end of this episode. So I was originally thinking that I was going to give this like a 6, but honestly there's a lot of good stuff in the middle. So I can't say that it was as good as last week, because it just wasn't, because I can't really find much fault with last week. And quite frankly, the only reason I gave last week a 9 is because I've seen 6 episodes and I know spoilers, next week going to be 10. So, but it's not as good as last week, and I probably have to drop it down. For me, my rating for this episode is probably going to be like an 8, not a 9. So yeah, I was thinking of not giving it a road trip. I was thinking of giving it a dinner party, and even less than that because of the stuff with Riker, because I feel like they wanted to work more than it actually is working for me. I'm not sure how you guys feel about the Riker stuff. It just didn't feel well written, or I don't know if it's not well written or it's not well acted, but like usually Jonathan Frakes doesn't have issues like that, so I don't know. But yeah, the stuff in the middle. Sean has an excellent speech, just soliloquy in the middle of this episode, which raises this up for me. There's really good interaction between Jack and Picard in the middle of this episode, which raises this up for me from me not liking the episode. The technical solution to their issue, after watching it a couple times, actually the way that it was written, each person actually contributed to the solution, which also raised the episode up for me as well. And the framing device that they used in this episode, even though I liked the last episode so much, worked better for me than the last. We didn't even really mention the 17-second thing when we reviewed it last week. So it was like a throwaway thing, but the framing device that they use, which I don't want to get into because it's kind of spoilers, even though this begins and ends with Riker's thing on the ship anyway, there's a framing device in the episode that I think is really effective and very smart. So that's why I'd give it a road trip or an 8. So how would you guys rate the episode?
Well, I have not been consistently rating the episodes like that, but it wasn't as good as last week's, but I feel it didn't fall as far off from me as it seems to have for you.
Like I said, I've watched it a lot of times. I pulled it up from a 6 all the way up to an 8. I really wanted the Riker stuff to work better than it did, because remember in the first episode, you were like, there's some stuff going on with him and Deanna and Kestra, and we seemed like you thought that they resolved that, and it really seemed like they did resolve that. So yeah, and the fact that it's, without saying anything,
we should talk about that though, because I do think like when you realize what the issue is, it is a little puzzling.
Like, we can't talk about the specifics until we get into spoilers, but it doesn't make sense based upon what we know before, and I think they should have written something to make it make more sense is my issue, because like he's one of my favorite characters, so they should have, I don't know, I guess he did what he could with what they wrote for him. But yeah, I couldn't let that ding the episode too much and bring it all the way down to a 6, because like I said, it does have some, the Shaw stuff is like some of the best stuff that we've had all season, like his whole thing, again, without getting into the specifics of what he said. So all right, again, so like David, what would you rate this out of 10?
say around the 7, because last week's episode was like a 9 out of 10. Well, this one is a downer, because we see like a more pressing mood. The ship is sinking, and everyone's morale is going low. Well, this brings up like the bugs and everything from each characters and such, which maybe raise it up a little bit and everything. And give me a huge appreciation that they put in more character growth, which is why I give it a 7. So
yeah, I think last week had a mix of action and really well-written dialogue, so that's why I was higher. In contrary, you say you would rate this lower than last week, so like an 8 or so around there, or lower than that.
Yeah, 8. Yeah.
All right, so like I said, I've been talking a lot about what I like about Record. I can't really talk about it until we get into spoilers. So if you enjoyed the conversation, please like, share, subscribe, and we will get into spoilers now so we can talk about the episode. All right, spoilers ahead. All right, so as you guys have tried it, I have very detailed notes, but I think I'm going to talk about this in like chunks. The Riker thing at the beginning and the end, that's not the first thing that happens, because the first thing that happens is actually the framing device that I said is actually very useful, the 5 years before thing. But the Riker thing in the beginning and the end, I don't get the speech that he gives Picard about, he says something about, I've traveled with you and nothing I've seen has given me hope that there's anything beyond. It doesn't make any sense based upon everything that we've seen at TNG. They see some really crazy things. I am a atheist. If this was in science fiction, had I saw those things, it would make me question something, right?
Yeah, but I think they see things happen to other like species, right, or other people. So I think like the context is quite different, or you like there's an intervening force, and they haven't seen that yet, right? They haven't seen any sign.
We killed Q last season, but like Q exists. He saw Q do a bunch of things. Yep. Q actually brought people back.
He was gone, right?
Yeah,
they're Q on.
But he saw Q bring people back from death, unless he's talking about like an afterlife, which I guess is a different thing than being brought back from death.
Yeah, I think he was talking about an afterlife. Like there's nothing beyond, right? You get brought back in some way or form, but once you're dead, that is it.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Back in the ready room, where it was just Picard and Riker, where Riker talked to Picard, saying that he was right. That what in the last episode, Picard kept saying that you had to attack instead of like running away, and then Riker said you were right. But then he talks about that he was worried about saving lives, and which brought on Thaddeus, which is his son, and
Thaddeus,
and then brought the story about Troy, and it felt empty. He felt there's nothing, and he felt lost. And then that's
I think that part also didn't make sense to me based upon what we saw with Kestra and Troy and him on the Nepenthe. Like they seemed like they were hurting, which is what we talked about for the first episode. They seemed like they were hurting, but it seemed like they were working through it. Like that's why they were taking the time off. It didn't seem he was like lost in despair or anything. He seemed just sad. Like all of them are sad because they lost someone from their family, but it didn't seem like lost in despair. I haven't lost anyone that close to me, and I understand like grief comes in waves. So maybe
I was gonna say like it could just be like after all of these, it ebbs and flows and it changes over time. So they might have hit a point where he maybe wasn't not moving on, but he wasn't processing his.
Sure, we're writing that. We're writing that in text. They should have put 2 lines of dialogue into that.
It's not explained again. Like it makes sense, right, that a parent losing their child would take time, I guess, to process it. But it felt
even from that episode, it didn't seem like it was something that happened immediately. It's just something that happened a couple years ago, and they were still dealing with it, and they were still sad.
We're fine. Really, Kestra still aches for him, but with every day the ache fades a little bit more.
But seeing that happen must be a different ache for you.
But it didn't seem like the depths of despair. So they needed a couple lines explaining how he thought he was processing it or whatever, he didn't process it well. The other thing I didn't like is that we were talking about this last week. We were with him when he was arguing with Picard.
Now is the time to fight. Race out of here. No, use it to set a trap. Instead of fleeing, we end the trail and reposition behind the Shrike. We'll have a dead to rights.
It makes tactical sense, but no, you said it earlier. We can no longer risk the lives of this crew. As soon as the leak is fixed, we're going to make a final run for it. Tell engineering to prepare for warp again.
This leak gives us only one advantage. She doesn't know that we know that we're being tracked.
I understand you're amped up, you have a son on board, and it's affecting...
Well, why?
I'm taking the ship and her crew home.
We cannot run any longer. We must engage and protect the ship.
I am protecting the ship by avoiding its destruction.
I understand this instinct to be fearful of loss.
Fearful of loss? You are out of line.
We cannot allow it to make us weak.
Sit down, Admiral.
Will, how many times must your strategy fail before you change it? It's not working!
Sit down, Admiral. I'm the captain of this ship.
Will, turn the ship around and fight.
We'll lose.
We're out of options, Captain. We fight or we die.
Bridge, Prepare to attack.
Will.
Remove yourself from the bridge. You've just killed us all.
We kind of undercut that by saying, "Oh, you were right." He wasn't right.
No, right. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, we saw the power of that shit. We saw that weapon.
Picard is the reason that they're hurtling towards the center of the nebula. He wasn't right. He might have touched on the fact that he was feeling something about his son just because that's what they decided to write. Because, like I said, it doesn't necessarily make sense given what they wrote. But that's the other thing that I didn't really like about it. And also, I guess we were supposed to feel uplifted by the birth at the end. But like, those aliens looked a little goofy to me. I'm not sure why that would have pulled him out of that. That pulled him out of the depth of despair that he was in. I've seen something so amazing now. Okay.
Like, it's beautiful, but I really have always struggled with when they have these episodes with light
in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, light and like in the vacuum of space. And I'm just like, none of the biology explained, obviously.
I feel like I'm go with them more when it's a energy looking life form, but those look like just biological blobs. Like
no, I mean they look like energy, but energy in the shape of squid or something like that, right? Like these pretty bioluminescent squid in this nebula. That when Beverly realized, when I saw her like timing the intervals between each blast, I was like, I know where this is going. Like, something in this nebula is giving birth, and when they explained it to him in the ready room, actually, I was trying to think about what the name of that room is, David. I kept just saying Michelle's office. The name ready room left my head. When they were explaining to him in the ready room, they mentioned, they counted it for our point. We saw an alien in space. And I guess it was very similar. It was like a squiddish sort of thing, but a lot larger. But also, we got the episode with Tin Man as well. So we've seen aliens in space. Actually, now that I think about it, even in Discovery, they had the Gorgander, like the space whale. So they've been things in space. It's fine, but like, I'm not sure why this would have made him feel okay about the death of his son and nothing else. I feel like we've seen things like this in space before. So again, I can't. This is why this dragged this episode down for me, and then I had to put it to the side and think about all the other stuff.
Back into the scene where at near the end of the episode where Riker contacts Deanna about how he felt and why he left, and then later on, this all of a sudden had this revitalization when he saw life literally born in front of his eyes, and said something that started to really cope of the death of his son and the pain that he and his family is going through, and then Deanna is agree with him about it. So, but the thing is that, as both of you said before, they need a couple more or a few more lines to explain more thoroughly of the whole pain they're going through, because it's like you said, this one doesn't make sense, and plus the question is asked, what exactly are you feeling? What exactly?
Like you said, if you're going to tell me that this is making him feel get out of this, like, you got to write something better for him to say. Like, she reacts as though what he said is so profound. I've never seen heard you say something so beautiful in a long time. Like, what he said was trite. What they wrote for him to say was trite, but like, okay, whatever. Sure, how that pulls you out of despair. I don't know. I can't stop complaining about this because, like I said, there's a lot of other good stuff in this episode. I hope that they write something later on when actually, we've seen in the trailers that they all around a table together. So when he's actually in the same room with her, hopefully this is not done. Hopefully this is not done and they explain a little bit more later on in another episode.
Hopefully.
To reteam this a little bit. So, yeah. So, like I said, the framing device of this episode is the back and forth between 10 Ford, the holodeck 10 Ford and the real 10 Ford, Guinan's bar 5 years before. That was really effective. We start with a scene with like a bunch of cadets interrupting his lunch and boing and girling out about him, and they drop that he fought a Rojan, which is really just a Voyager thing. So there's like the other adventures of Picard that you didn't see off screen. But yeah, what was really interesting about this is how they used it, went back and forth, and then we find out at the end that Jack was actually there for that entire conversation, and you get hints of that throughout the episode, because when they're in 10 Forward inside the holodeck and Picard tells him about the story about Jack Crusher and the shuttle, Picard stops himself and he says, "Did your mother tell you this?" And Jack is just about to be honest, and then Shaw interrupts.
Did your mother already tell you this story?
Actually,
What a harrowing tale of survival. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt family time.
So I think he was going to tell them. I think he was going to tell them that I was there, and I heard it when you told the cadets years ago, but he got interrupted by Shaw. Because earlier, when Picard asked him in the holodeck, "Can you tell me why you didn't want to know me?" he pauses for a long time, and then he deflects with the story about the Andorian, because he didn't want to tell him that his father told him that he didn't want a family to his face. He kind of set him up, but he was also a teenager.
In that moment, it was so weird, right? Because you pop up on the stranger, he doesn't know you, you don't know him, and you ask a really personal question, right?
But he was also testing him. It's a teenager's thing to do. He's like 23 now. He's 23 now. It was 5 years before, right?
Yeah, but it's not a fair test, because you're asking a deeply personal question of somebody with no clue who you are.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going to get into Renee.
And I don't think, and I don't think Picard's answer was terrible, given how much that the crew of the Enterprise and like Beverly meant to him, right? So there's truth in it, but that's not a type of truth you would
Yes,
expect.
that's true.
with-
That's
And
true.
also,
It was true, but not really true. Like, it's not something that you would expect. Like, his real truth is something he would say to Beverly, or something he would say to Laris, or something he would say to Deanna, because he did say something to Deanna about thinking that Renee was like his son when he died in First Contact, when he died with his father in the fire in First Contact. So those are more personal thoughts that we know about him. So,
that generations.
sorry, Generations. It was Generations. Actually, I just watched it earlier. It was Generations. It was just Generations that his nephew died.
Renee's always wanted to see Starfleet Academy.
Renee. Oh, your nephew.
He's so unlike his father. He's a dreamer, imaginative, so very gentle.
What's happened?
Robert and Renee, they're burned to death in the fire.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's not all right. I didn't realize he meant so much to you.
I'd come to feel that Renee was as close as I would get to having a child of my own.
So yeah, it's not a fair thing to do, but he was also a teenager. So teenagers don't think logically, and
I wouldn't put it up to, I think it's just, I don't know, like hubristic to just expect anybody or to have the expectation that you would get a really honest answer in a setting.
I don't think that you can expect that sort of insight about human beings from someone who's a teenager, though. They might understand that there's like a false self or a self that you present to the world and a internal self as well, because they, of course, everyone performs a role in society, and you learn that early on in life. But I don't know when she told him about him being the father, he probably spent a lot of time researching him, and then he was let down, and he held on to that. So I don't know. It's unfair, but it's also a childish thing to do, and he was a child when he did it. So
it's totally an immature thing to do. But I think I think Jack realizes, I can't say he realizes, I think that he unfairly judged him, but I think he realizes that like sort of flippant comment was not the full.
I think he realizes that it wasn't the full truth, but I also think that he realizes that it was partly the truth based upon what happened. Like, because they have the voiceover of him saying, if you really believe in your crew, you can get through anything. That's what's playing while we're looking at Jack. So he's remembering what his father said 5 years ago, and he's seeing that it happened.
Only ever really as good as those around you. Your crew become a part of you, complete you.
Because in the middle of the subject, like, people need organizations. I've always been on my own. You found your thing, I found my thing. And now he's seeing the value of having a close second family like this, a team like this. So, like I said, I thought the framing device in the last episode was sort of forgettable to me. The 17 seconds thing, this is very well done. Because they used it throughout, and they weaved it in and out. And they had the conversation in the holodeck that kind of alluded to it as well. They also used Jack. He was like, at a certain point, he's getting like proud of his dad. Like, when he's explaining to Riker, he's like, we can maneuver the ship like with docking thrusters, like you did.
Navigate manually. Use the docking thrusters to steer around them, like you did.
So it's like, it's funny. His whole arc, Jack's whole arc in this episode, from standoffish to like on the bridge, helping his dad do what his namesake was doing, basically.
Bearing 114, Mark 5.
Starboard thrusters up 45 degrees.
Aye, sir.
Hold on. 4 more seconds. Trust me.
Shut it off.
It was a really great arc in this episode. The actor's doing a really good job. He's playing all the right notes for his character, I think. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else we got in this episode. We got, like I said, Sean Seven. So I don't think we have to talk too much about how they got out. They got out by using the contractions and then siphoning off some energy and then boosting the engines and then coasting out. And Riker gives him the comm because he has the experience of actually controlling the ship using just docking thrusters. But yeah, the Shaw speech was excellent about Wolf 359, and like it's so funny. Like his arc was not just in this episode. Really, it was like over the last 4 episodes. Like, because you hate him because he's talking down to Picard and Riker in the first episode. But they make him more three-dimensional. You understand where he's coming from, why he might have contempt, because 11,000 people was a lot of people. Like, I'm trying to look at my notes here from Wolf 359. It's from Best of Both Worlds Part 2, the beginning of season 4. So he was on the USS Constance, Stardate 444002.3. This is actually in the credits at the end. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the credits at the end for episodes in the future. I try not to mention it in these years, but this has been in the credits since the first episode. The damage report of this ship being destroyed. Also, the holodeck thing for 10-4 has been in the credits at the end as well. But yeah, 40 ships, one Borg cube, and then there was only one Brav. Like 50 of his friends. Yeah.
Ricky, but you really, I think you appreciate the complex feelings, right? Because like anybody who's assimilated by the Borg, you don't hold them responsible for their action. But then also the trauma that he went through of being chosen as one of the few to get into.
Picard wasn't the type of person that wants to hide his history. He put full-on record out there. There's a lot of people want to.
We've seen in the past that he feels shame about it.
Shame, but he's not ashamed to. He's not trying to hide it. That's the thing.
I think everyone knows about it, and also like Concha said, everyone excuses him for it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been promoted up the ranks.
Right. But Shaw can't. Like Shaw, he says at the end, right? He's like at some point being an asshole place
being charming.
Being charming. Like, so he just embraced that anger.
He's basically Cisco in the first episode. In the first episode of DS9. But he's held on to it for a lot longer. I feel like I don't remember if Picard comes back around to DS9, but I don't know that he lived with that anger for so long. Although he couldn't live with that anger for so long because he had a child. Like living with that bitterness would have affected his child. So I think having Jake tempered that bitterness over time. And there was also some weird sci-fi things where he actually got to see his wife from different universes as well.
And let's not forget, they all think they're going to die, right? So I think all of the things you felt about this person who, like, this is the second time in your life where they put you in a situation.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Like, I that's too. You know, so to see him, but even so, you saw flashes of even the last episode where his leg is broken, he's in sick bay, and he's like, how are they finding us, right? Like, just his clarity. And I think even when they first encountered Vadic, you saw like he was pissed off at Riker and Picard.
He's always still like captain. I don't think that he's been kind of jerky or a dick to them. But I 2 episodes ago when he was like, there's 500 people on the ship, that's one dude. I got what he was saying. Like, you got to give up this dude because I can't have my whole crew, which is 500 people, die because this ship is like a monster. There's no way that we're going to win against this ship, which is why, like I said, I was on Riker's side when Picard was like, oh, we got to attack what? With like pebbles? It's like attacking pebbles with this ship. But anyway, so I understood Shaw has always been competent, it seems like. Everything he's saying makes sense. He said some crappy things to Picard in his quarters when he was having dinner with him, but I never thought he was incompetent or even cowardly, really. He was like...
No, David said it.
By the books,
exactly. He's a by-the-book captain. That's what you said.
He had really good... I want to see more of him. The Terry Matalas was the showrunner of 12 Monkeys, and this actor was one of the characters in that show, one of the main characters, so he gave him this role. Because I guess he knew that he could handle it, because there's just lots of dimensions to Shaw, and he's able to play them all. I guess the last thing is 7. So the 7 thing has Shaw in it a little bit as well. And you also see, you see Shaw in a lot of different scenes with 7 to give him other dimensions besides the asshole thing in 10-4, the holodeck. So like she goes to his quarters, he doesn't want to talk to anybody. He's like sharpening a knife or something, right? I don't know.
It's like a dagger or something.
Yeah. So in the back and forth with her, where it sounds like he's giving her a compliment, and he's basically just explaining to her how to find a changeling.
A changeling.
She's like she's like, yeah, in the F, I wasn't changing. That's something you would say. So yeah, that was funny. And also at the end of the episode when Picard goes to him for help and says, we need your help, even if you were a dipshit from Chicago. So yes, he has a sense of humor about himself. He laughs at that. And he also comes to the solution twice. He has her go and find the pot, and they show a picture of Odo in his pot. And so it's just that the changeling intercepted her and shoots and destroys the pot. But he also comes up with the idea of drawing the changeling out when they were opening up the cells. So he's confident, and
he's a tactician. Yeah, he's good.
Trying to think if we missed anything. I know that the whole holodeck thing in general, when Picard explains that it's on an independent power cell, makes me think of the Equinox episode in Voyager when they were just they put on they didn't have a holodeck, but they had a simulation thing, so like the captain put on a simulation and died, and the Equinox was like draining those beings from another dimension.
I feel like there's been enough like holodeck mishaps that it should really like be own power supply, own just so you can sight from the ship,
separate system,
and not have holodeck characters over.
System, so the ship just programs from the holodeck can't take over the ship. We've seen several times before as well. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Oh, sorry,
the very end.
We didn't mention it last week.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like a gas leak thing he was hallucinating, but Jack sees visions again. I don't know. What do you guys think that is? Like, I'm starting to think like when Geordi was like a sleeper agent and he didn't know he was a sleeper agent. It's like something's happening with him. Like he's seeing this red door. He's seeing these red vines. It's very weird. The voice
says, "Find me." Makes me think it's like another like Crusher boy again, where like, for example, Wesley Crusher is now part of the Traveler. Now we see Jack Crusher going through it similarly again, a some alien entity came in and say, find me. I'm thinking, not again. So I don't know. I think like there's something happening while Beverly was raising the boy. Because come on, you gotta think about it. Beverly was raising Jack by herself 20 years, and they ran to different parts of the galaxy. We really don't know. Maybe what happened to him is the reason why Vadic was looking for him, or maybe the changeling and maybe that's why. So people thought because he's the child of Picard, but the thing is, Picard just found out recently. So there's no way they would find out that he's the child of Picard until someone spill it out. So it has to be something why Jack in particular. So we had to, unfortunately, wait and find out a few episodes and such.
Which I think is what we got from that, right? Because you see there's also that weird scene where Vadic looks like she cuts off her hand, and this mask appears that communicates to her. Because that also happens, right? Like this really powerful captain of a ship get ordered back into the nebula, and realize, I think we suspected that she was a bounty hunter. She was sent by somebody, but at least that maybe she had more control. But obviously whoever is controlling her or using her services wants Jack alive, right? Because when they backed off, I think that I thought, well, they're gonna die. Like he's out of Jack or Picard, or like whatever this plan is, they're both out of the picture. And that's, but it complicates the thinking now that they want him alive, and now that there seems to be something about Jack actually, like it's not about his relationship to Picard. There's something specific to do with him. And so it's interesting, like even they go back in, and then Riker
asteroid,
an asteroid, like came back,
throwing the ship at them.
But
in the previous episode,
right? But it left you, they resolve this situation, right? They get out of the nebula, they're safe. But now,
we actually get an
Admiral's
log as well. Like to that point, he specifically says we're free of the strike. Too many questions linger. Who is Vadic, and what exactly does she want with my son? So there's still a lot of questions. I think last week when we were talking about this, you said that you didn't think she was a changeling, but obviously she is a changeling. But what I thought was interesting is that there was seemed to be like blood when she cut off her arm, and I'm not sure what cutting off her arm, how she was using that to communicate. So there's all kinds of interesting things that we haven't seen changelings do.
Do you think she's a changeling?
I just her arm. The thing about it, like for example, Odo. Odo like cuts it. I remember there's an episode. If he cuts his arm or something like that, he'll regrew it right away. But in this case,
she reabsorbed it.
So it's just that. So it has to. She's probably a handicap and was given like a hand as a communication.
How can she control it? I don't know.
Control it. I think that it's like some sort of like a deal. It's like I'll give you this hand, but my hand is also the way it communicates me, which is to the green leg. So
you guys don't think that she's a changeling? You think she's like some sort of other thing?
She's like an agent or something like that. She's a bounty hunter. Said by someone or thing. We'll find out more later. Because right now we don't know much other than Vadic and everything. Because I read a lot of places saying that Vadic is, I don't know where people got it. People saying that Vadic is a child of Picard as well. Thinking no, but when we saw the hand cut off, it turned to be a changing piece. That's a whole different thing right there. So
I think she's a pawn. She's a pawn because I think whoever like hired her gave her like that weapon, right?
The portal weapon that they ditched.
The portal, right. So I think she made a deal for, and now she's seeing, and it's obviously somebody she's afraid of, right? Because she recognized him.
Threatened her. They said, I think it was, you don't matter, the weapon doesn't matter, your crew doesn't matter. Also says, she says going into the nebula will be suicide, saying not going in the nebula will be suicide. So she definitely is afraid of,
it'll be suicide.
Yeah, she's definitely afraid of whoever this person is. It doesn't look like a human-ish face, or I don't know. I guess they can have any sort of face if it's another changeling. So I don't know.
Also, it seems like they're because Seven and Shaw figure out that the changeling was on board, had to have been on board before Picard got there. So how? And then the changeling still
we saw
the ship,
Foster.
Right? So I guess it seems to me like they're two different. There might be two different villains at play here, because if the changelings were part of it and Jack was wanted alive, I don't think they would have caused that damage, the level of damage that they did. Like the goal would have been to disable the ship so Vadic could capture the ship, right? Not disable the ship.
But you actually made me remember something about the changeling that I'm going to mention in a second. When the changeling gets to the nacelle control section where Seven and Charlotte are in the shape of a forge, and she says, well, if you don't, one nacelle is open and the other isn't, we can't go to warp, but we still can maneuver. So she wants them to get out of the nebula so that Jack can get captured. She just doesn't want them to get away for Vadic. So I think they are working together. The other thing I forgot to mention was I don't remember if we mentioned that the change that came in there. We mentioned that Shaw set up that thing, but we didn't mention that Seven killed her and that she came in the form of the Forge. And also the way that she figured it out is that she called her Commander Seven, which goes back to 2 episodes ago. But the other thing is that usually when you kill changelings, they revert back.
Either revert back or they still the form they were killed in.
No, usually they don't. They revert back to they either atomize or they revert back to like the gelatin form. Like they turn into like like ash or they turn into like a gelatin form. I haven't seen a changeling keep the form
Just
of
just kind of freeze up.
So that's also an interesting detail.
Yeah, but it still doesn't make sense because how would the changeling have known that Jack Crusher would get on that ship?
See, that's another thing. Maybe.
Yeah, like that part doesn't make.
We don't know exactly.
But it does hint at a larger conspiracy because remember Jack says that he went to several places and he saw several faces. So maybe they're just changelings in a lot of different places. So it has nothing to do with Jack. It was just infiltration of this ship because they're changelings in different places. And then this changeling started to coordinate with Vadic because the changeling knows the overall plan. Is the only thing that makes sense. Because, like, you're right, there was no way for that changeling to know that the Titan was going to be going after Jack. But if they have changelings in lots of different places, and all the changelings know the overall plan, the changeling on the ship was just trying to be useful for that overall plan. Is the only way I can think that makes sense. Because, like I said, Jack says that 2 episodes ago, he says that, or it was last episode, the beginning episode, he says that they were Fender strangers, then they were Federation. So, yeah. All right, anything else? We've been talking for a while now, actually past where we were supposed to cut off, but I think we covered everything.
There were a bunch of Easter eggs. I'll give it this, put a quick Easter eggs phrase, but I like to feel this episode because the dialogue, like say, Crusher, Riker, and Picard all in one room. It makes you feel a little nostalgic feeling of the whistle when they always
in the ready room.
In the ready room,
everything's in the ready room. Yeah.
And he's still the clever, out of the box doctor and everything, and always picks up something out not out of the books. And then my favorite one was when Picard was about to maneuver, he did the famous uniform tug on the shirt. I was like,
when he sat down, when Riker gave him the comm,
oh my god, he did the tug. I'm like,
the Picard maneuver.
Yeah. So it's nice, small Easter eggs that you recognize like right in front of you. So it's very nice to see. But I like that with the old crews back together from TNG. That'd be nice to see everyone else come back again in a later episode, hopefully. So, but I like it.
We didn't get more for Rafi. This is a whole contained episode. No more for Rafi in this episode. So yeah.
And as for Seven, I like that how Seven is getting more respect than she deserves, and now she's getting a feel for it in the Federation. At first, in the last episodes, she wasn't think it was the right decision, but then in this episode, she's now getting to get the grasp of that she is in the right place of where she is. Maybe not be with Titan, and maybe later she might become a captain, and not on the Shaw, who is a dick. So, but
he's a complicated person. I don't know.
He's a complicated person.
Yeah.
So I think we should cut it off there, but we want to hear what you guys think. So comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and watch our last review or one of our other reviews. All right, see you guys. Bye. Thanks.